The courtroom was filled with whispers, the kind that cut through silence like blades. The benches creaked as strangers leaned closer, curious eyes darting toward the man in chains. He sat there, frail and weary, his hair tangled like unkempt grass, his uniform long replaced by tattered rags. Nobody would have guessed that once upon a time he had worn his nation's colors with pride. Today, he was just another homeless veteran standing trial for a crime he barely understood. The bailiff's voice echoed, "All rise." The room stiffened as the judge entered, his robe swaying, his expression stern and cold. He looked down at the man before him as if he had already made up his mind. To most in the room, this was just another case, another forgotten soul swallowed by the system. But in that moment, none could predict what would unfold. The prosecutor cleared his throat. "Your Honor, the defendant was found trespassing on private property, resisting arrest, and in possession of stolen food items. This is not his first offense." His voice was sharp, slicing through the air. Some in the gallery shook their heads, muttering judgments under their breath. The homeless veteran kept his gaze low, his hands trembling against the cold steel cuffs. His lips parted, and with a hoarse whisper he said, "I was just hungry." His words carried no defense, just truth. A murmur spread, but no one softened. Hunger, after all, is no excuse in the eyes of the law. The judge studied him with a cold detachment, flipping through papers as if the man's life were nothing more than ink on a page. "Name?" he demanded. The veteran raised his head slowly, his voice fragile yet steady. "Daniel James Carter." And suddenly silence. The judge froze, his gavel nearly slipping from his grasp. His eyes widened, searching the man's face as though he were staring at a ghost. The name echoed inside his mind like a thunderclap. Daniel James Carter. The very name that once belonged to a brother in arms. The courtroom leaned forward, sensing something had shifted. The prosecutor hesitated, confused by the sudden stillness of the judge. The judge's hand trembled slightly before he steadied himself. He leaned closer, his voice lower now, almost reverent. "Corporal Daniel James Carter, 82nd Airborne Division?" The veteran blinked, stunned. "Yes, sir. Though that was a long time ago." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The judge's stern mask cracked, replaced with a raw, vulnerable expression. His mind rushed back decades to dusty battlefields, roaring helicopters, and nights filled with fear and brotherhood. Daniel Carter wasn't just a defendant. He was the man who had once saved his life. The judge rose from his seat, defying the courtroom's order. For a moment he stood in silence, his throat tight, his eyes glassy. Everyone watched as the gavel-bearing man transformed from judge to soldier. From authority to humbled survivor, the prosecutor spoke again, stammering. "Your Honor, the charges—" "Enough," the judge cut him off, his voice breaking with authority and emotion. He turned to the veteran. You pulled me out of that ambush in Kandahar. I owe you my life." The room was stunned. No one dared speak, no one dared move. Even the bailiff lowered his gaze, sensing the weight of history unfolding. Daniel's eyes welled up. He shook his head slowly. "I don't remember, sir. There were so many." "I just tried to bring as many home as I could." His words carried a humility that pierced every soul present. The judge's hands trembled as he removed his glasses. "And here you are, treated like a criminal, forgotten, left to starve." He turned sharply toward the prosecutor. "Dismiss these charges, now." "But Your Honor, now." The judge thundered, slamming his gavel so hard the echoes seemed to shake the walls. The prosecutor swallowed his words, bowing to the authority that carried not only legal power but moral weight. The charges were dropped, the courtroom stunned into silence, but the judge wasn't finished. He stepped down from the bench, an action so rare it left the entire gallery breathless. He approached Daniel slowly, each step heavy with emotion. When he finally stood before the man, he removed the chains from his wrists himself. "You are no criminal," he said softly, his voice cracking. "You are a hero." Daniel's knees buckled, the weight of years crashing down at once. Tears rolled down his cheeks, mixing with the dirt of the streets still clinging to his skin. I didn't know where else to go," he whispered. The judge placed a hand on his shoulder, steadying him. You don't have to walk this road alone anymore. The gallery broke into applause, some standing in respect, others in shame for the way they had judged him moments earlier. The bailiff, once cold and detached, wiped his eyes. Even the prosecutor lowered his head, humbled by the truth that had just unfolded. From that day forward, Daniel's life changed. The judge made sure of it. He connected him with veterans organizations, ensured he had a home, and reminded him daily that his sacrifices had not been in vain. No longer was Daniel James Carter a nameless face on the streets. He was remembered, honored, and restored with dignity, and the moral of the story is clear. Too often, we see only the broken shell of a person without knowing the battles they've fought, the sacrifices they've made, or the lives they've saved. Every soul carries a story. Every name holds a history. Before we judge, we must listen. Before we condemn, we must remember. So the next time you pass someone on the street, don't just see their scars, see their story. Respect it. Honor it. And never forget that behind every silent struggle is a hero waiting to be recognized. If this story touched your heart, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of compassion. And if you believe in honoring our heroes and giving voice to the forgotten, make sure to subscribe, and join us for more stories that ignite the soul. Together we can keep their flame alive.